Our faith teaches us that Jesus is like us in all things except for sin. And so Jesus was tempted just like we are each and every single day. He was tempted to leave his mission behind or to achieve his mission, but do it in an easier way, follow the easier path in life. Well, this temptation story is extremely important, and we begin Lent with this story because it's important for us to realize that Jesus, yes, was tempted, and then also because he has the power of God in him, he is able to overcome those temptations, and we also have that same power. The movement of this story is really important, so we begin with the first temptation, which is where? On the floor of the desert, the lowest place to be. And so the devil says to Jesus, "Command this stone to be turned to bread." And so the devil is tempting Jesus to focus on the most basic human needs, that is, to eat. Jesus, you're hungry. Why don't you just make some bread for yourself? You're thirsty. Make some wine or water for yourself. And so Jesus says no to that, which seems kind of odd since he's so hungry. But what he's telling the devil and us is that we ought not let our stomach or our basic human needs rule our life. And there is the same temptation we have in our own time. If you watch TV around dinner time, what ads do you see? Fast food. It seems like all of them are about food. And then there's the late night ads as well, and all those are about what? About food. Fill your stomach. Taco Bell even says that they have the fourth meal for you during the day. And I've seen the schedules of local fast food places. They are open until 2 or 3 or sometimes even 4 in the morning. Remember the days when bars used to be open that late? Now, I wouldn't know. Didn't I hear that from you? Yeah, that's it. Okay. So basically, any time of the day, if you want to fill that need, fill your stomach, you have an opportunity to do so. I'm hungry and I want something to eat, a very natural thing. And so this temptation basically is asking us, is our life dominated by the basic human needs of our lives? The attitude of, I want what I want when I want it. The attitude of the consumerism of our age. We as Catholic Christian people then are called to say that there is something more than that. That we don't just focus on our basic human needs, but there is more to that. That we want to serve not our own needs, but God's needs as well. So that happens on the floor of the desert. And then we move higher up. The devil says, I will give you all of the power and all of the glory of the kingdoms that you are able to see. Well, Jesus, of course, already has power and glory, but not in the way the world will give it to him. Jesus is not part of the kingdoms of the earth, though that would make it extremely easy for him to establish his mission, wouldn't it? If he were an emperor, all he would have to do was just say, we are going to adopt Christianity, and the people would have to go along with him. But when we look to the history of the world, we see that even the greatest kingdoms one day fell. The Greeks and the Romans. Now you can go to see the remnants of their kingdoms in museums. They're gathering dust. And then there was the Medici family that ruled Italy for years. We don't even talk about the Medicis anymore. Napoleon, Nazi Germany. Even though they had a great deal of power, that power ultimately faded. Jesus wants to adore God, his Father, first and foremost. And so he is able to have power and glory that comes not in the way that the world gives it, but in the way that his heavenly Father will give it to him and ultimately raise him even over the power of death. And so we have to ask ourselves, how do we use our power and our influence, Are we searching after power and glory all the time? Or are we looking to serve, to care for, to reach out to others who are in need? The third temptation is even more elevated. The devil takes Jesus up to the parapet, the top, the very top of the temple. And the temple for Jewish people at Jesus' time was the center of everything. Not just the center of religion, but if you wanted to do business, if you wanted to talk to people in your neighborhood, you went to the temple. That was really the social center of the entire area. And so here is Jesus and the devil on the very top. And the devil says, throw yourself down. Now, the most important thing, I think, for that is if they're on the parapet of the temple, are they easily seen? You better believe it. So imagine people are looking up, everybody in Jerusalem looking up. Hey, isn't that Jesus the carpenter? And who's that little red guy standing next to him? Well, I want to take a little license with the text, just a little bit, because the devil says, throw yourself down. But I don't think that's the temptation of our time. The temptation of our time is to stay where? On top. So we want to be in power, in charge, on top of everything, and having the people of the town looking up to us and saying, wow, look at that, they're on the parapet of the temple. They must be wonderful and great people. We want to stay on top where the power and the glory is. And the license I want to take with the text is this. Our temptation is to stay on top, to stay visible, to stay well-known and well-regarded. Sadly, there are so many stories of people who wanted to stay on top and then they were thrown down, not of their own volition. For example, I don't know if you saw the movie Spotlight. I saw it probably a few months ago. It actually won an award. Did it win an Academy Award? I'm not exactly sure. But it's won a few awards. And in that movie Spotlight, it's very bad for the church because essentially there were some criminal things going on. There were priests abusing people, and it was horrible. Well, the choice is, well, we could bring these things to light and take the lumps, but do the right thing. Or we could cover it up for a while and hope it never comes to light. Well, as we well know in this society, you can't follow well, just keep it a secret, because it doesn't happen. In our 24/7 media, everything is going to come to light. And so the difficulty is you want to stay on top. And if there's a secret, we try to cover it up, make sure nobody knows about it, and then everything will be well. Well, ultimately what happens? Boom, it blows up. Also, movie Concussion, if you saw that one. That came out recently as well, about the NFL, the National Football League, that knew that concussions were happening. They knew that there were problems with their former players becoming sick. However, when you have billions of dollars in advertiser money rolling in, all of a sudden, it's really hard to make that decision, isn't it? You know? So they decided, we'll tell you what, we'll deny it, we'll cover it up, and everything will be fine. Once again, it blows up. Why? Because you can't keep the truth under wraps. We always have to make sure that we are telling the truth at all times. There's so many other sad stories of that as well. The economic meltdown, when a few people said, well, I don't think that these mortgages are going to last. Well, I'll tell you what, the money's rolling in. Let's cover it up, and then we'll deal with it when it actually blows up. And also, with the city of Chicago and the Laquan McDonald shooting. Well, once again, let's take that video, let's bury it somewhere until after the mayoral election, and then we won't deal with it. We'll deal with it only if it happens to come to light. Once again, there are so many stories where that happens. I'm on top. I'm not going to throw myself down. I want to stay up here. But ultimately, we realize that there are a lot of problems with that because the truth will come to light. So the challenge is to look honestly at ourselves. What is the truth? And to tell that truth all the time. It's very hard because people will fight the truth, especially if it costs them some comfort or costs them some money. The truth of the gospel today is basically to keep God at the center of our lives, to push aside the temptations of this life so that we can live a godly life. And that is not easy when the world demands our conformity in so many ways. We have to make some hard decisions when the world is telling us to go a different way. So we are called to take the true path, though it may be the harder one. So Lent is really about being what God created us to be. Disciples who follow him in all times, who sometimes have to make hard decisions, and also who live in some very difficult situations. But at the same time, disciples are the ones who always are about living the truth, telling the truth, and making sure that we do our best to follow God's law in each and every moment of our lives.